It's been decades since the world first met the misfit recruits of the Metropolitan Police Academy. We laughed at their antics and cheered for their triumphs, but time waits for no one. Prepare your heart as we revisit the legendary faces of 1984. From skyrocketing fame to tragic goodbyes, you won't believe how much has changed for our favorite boys in blue. Are you ready for this emotional journey? Kim Cattrall as Cadet Karen Thompson. Born on August 21, 1956, in Liverpool, England, she brought a sophisticated charm to the raucous comedy Police Academy. At the age of 27, Cattrall's portrayal of Cadet Karen Thompson provided a grounded, intelligent counterpoint to the film's slapstick chaos. As a wealthy socialite who joined the police force to break away from her suffocating upper-crust background, her character offered a refreshing independence and served as the memorable romantic lead. The film became a massive commercial success, grossing over $149 million and solidifying her presence in Hollywood as a versatile leading lady capable of holding her own in a male-dominated comedy blockbuster. While Karen Thompson was composed and effortlessly cool, Kim Cattrall's professional journey was often marked by a fight for respect and agency. Unlike her character, who easily fit into the boys' club of the Academy, Cattrall frequently battled against being typecast solely as a sex symbol following roles in films like Porky's and Mannequin. Her career was fraught with the challenge of shedding the seductive girlfriend image to be taken seriously as a dramatic actress. Furthermore, she faced intense public scrutiny and industry backlash later in her career for demanding pay parity and standing her ground against co-stars and producers' struggles that often saw her unfairly labeled as difficult in the press, despite her professional validity. Kim Cattrall has continued to work steadily successfully navigating television and film while maintaining strong boundaries regarding her past projects. She starred in the series Filthy Rich and Glamorous and provided a voice for the spin-off How I Met Your Father. As of 2026, at the age of 69, she is enjoying a career renaissance on her own terms, having famously reconciled briefly with her Sex and the City history for a cameo in And Just Like That, while steadfastly moving forward with new creative endeavors. She divides her time between New York and Canada, celebrated as an icon who refused to compromise her self-worth for industry approval. Steve Guttenberg as Cadet Carrie Mahoney. Born on August 24, 1958, the Brooklyn, New York native became one of the most recognizable faces of the 1980s. At the age of 25, Guttenberg's portrayal of the charming, prank-loving troublemaker Carrie Mahoney turned a low-budget comedy into a global phenomenon. His likable demeanor, combined with a mischievous grin, anchored the chaotic ensemble of misfits, helping the film gross over $149 million worldwide. For the first 4 films of the franchise, he served as the heart of the series, establishing a box office dominance that defined a specific era of American comedy. While Mahoney was a rebellious anti-authoritarian constantly clashing with leadership, Steve Guttenberg was known in the industry for his eagerness to please and a relentlessly positive, nice guy reputation that contrasted sharply with his character's cynicism. However, this ubiquity came with a price. After leaving the Police Academy franchise, following the 4th installment to broaden his horizons, he found himself struggling against the very typecasting he sought to escape. The saturation of his presence in the 80s led to a period of professional difficulty in the 90s and 2000s, where leading roles evaporated and he faced the harsh reality of a Hollywood landscape that had moved on, forcing him to step back from the limelight. Steve Guttenberg eventually reinvented himself as a resilient figure in entertainment, embracing his legacy while pivoting to theater writing and television roles, including a recurring spot on The Goldbergs. In his personal life, he found long-term happiness marrying television reporter Emily Smith in 2019. As of 2026, At the age of 67, he is active in independent film and theater, frequently engaging with the fan base that grew up on his movies and celebrating the longevity of a career that survived the volatile shifts of show business. Michael Winslow as Cadet Larvell Jones. Born on September 6, 1958, the Spokane, Washington native first showcased his vocal talents in nightclubs before landing his breakout role. At the age of 25, Winslow's portrayal of the mischievous beatboxing cadet became an instant cultural sensation, earning him the moniker the Man of 10,000 Sound Effects. His ability to mimic everything from machine guns to bad dubbing provided the comedic backbone of the franchise. Uniquely, he was the only cast member to appear in all 7 Police Academy films, as well as the television spin-off, making his character synonymous with the goofball charm of 1980s comedy. While Larvell Jones was a carefree prankster, always ready with a noise to diffuse tension, Michael Winslow faced profound personal tragedy and professional confinement that contrasted sharply with his on-screen persona. In 1993, shortly after the release of the final film, his wife passed away from a drug overdose, leaving him a widower and single father to 2 children, a heartbreaking reality far removed from the light-hearted comedy he was famous for. Professionally, Winslow struggled immensely with typecasting. His unique vocal gimmick became a double-edged sword that made it difficult for casting directors to see him as a dramatic actor or in roles that did not require sound effects, limiting his opportunities as the franchise's popularity waned. Michael Winslow continued to leverage his vocal talents throughout the decades, engaging in voiceover work for games and movies including Spaceballs and Gremlins. He experienced a career resurgence after a celebrated appearance on America's Got Talent in 2021, which introduced his unique skills to a new generation. As of 2026, at the age of 67, he is still active in the entertainment industry, touring internationally as a stand-up comedian and voice trementalist. No longer bound solely by the shadow of the Police Academy, he has embraced his legacy as a vocal artist, maintaining a connection with fans through social media and live performances while enjoying a quiet life in Florida. G.W. Bailey as Lieutenant Thaddeus Harris. Born on August 27, 1944, the Port Arthur, Texas native had already gained some recognition as Sergeant Rizzo on MASH before stepping into the boots of his most recognizable antagonist. At the age of 39, Bailey's portrayal of the arrogance-fueled, megaphone-wielding Lieutenant Thaddeus Harris in Police Academy became an instant comedic classic. With his signature cane and catchphrase, "Move it, move it, move it," Bailey created the perfect authoritarian foil to the laid-back cadets, cementing Harris as a villain audiences loved to hate. His performance anchored the franchise's conflict, and despite missing the second and third installments, his return in the later sequels was viewed by fans as a restoration of the series' core dynamic. While Lieutenant Harris was defined by his mean-spirited vanity and disdain for his subordinates, G.W. Bailey is widely known in the industry as a compassionate and charitable figure, presenting a stark contrast to his on-screen persona. This dichotomy often presented professional hurdles. Bailey faced significant typecasting throughout the 1980s and 90s, frequently boxed into roles as the inept or hard-nosed authority figure. Furthermore, as the Police Academy franchise produced endless sequels with diminishing critical returns, the actors involved often struggled to find dramatic work that allowed them to break free from the slapstick stigma attached to the series' later years. G.W. Bailey eventually shattered his comedic typecasting by landing the role of Detective Lieutenant Louis Provenza on the hit drama The Closer and its spin-off Major Crimes, a tenure that lasted from 2005 to 2018 and introduced him to a new generation of fans. Outside of acting, his life's passion has been serving as the executive director of the Sunshine Kids Foundation, an organization dedicated to providing positive group activities for children with cancer. As of 2026, at the age of 81, he remains an active figure in the charitable community, and occasional acting roles celebrated not just for his comedic legacy, but for a dramatic second act that redefined his career. Bubba Smith as Cadet Moses Hightower. Born on February 28, 1945 in Orange, Texas, the former NFL defensive superstar transitioned to Hollywood to play one of comedy's most beloved giants. At the age of 39, Smith's portrayal of the soft-spoken florist-turned-officer Moses Hightower became an instant hit in the original Police Academy film. His immense physical stature paired with a gentle demeanor provided some of the franchise's most memorable visual gags, such as lifting cars and ripping out front seats, establishing him as a fan favorite who would go on to appear in 5 of the franchise's sequels and the television spin-off. While Hightower was a man of few words who used his strength only when necessary to help his friends, Smith had to work hard to shed his real-life reputation as one of the most feared and aggressive players in football history, where chants of "Kill Bubba Kill" once filled stadiums. Transitioning from athletics to acting brought the inevitable struggle of typecasting. His towering 6 feet 7 inches frame often limited him to roles requiring physical intimidation rather than dramatic range. Despite his comedic success, he faced the challenge of being seen by casting directors as a novelty act rather than a serious actor, finding it difficult to secure substantive work outside the gentle giant archetype established by the Police Academy series. Bubba Smith continued to make appearances in television and commercials, famously starring in a long-running series of Miller Lite beer ads, though he lived a largely private life in his later years. He appeared in sitcoms like Married, with Children, and Family Matters, maintaining a steady but low-key presence in the industry. Smith passed away at his home in Los Angeles on August 3, 2011, at the age of 66, from acute drug intoxication involving a weight loss medication combined with heart disease. A significant revelation followed his death. Researchers at Boston University announced that his brain showed Stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTEA, degenerative disease linked to his years of hard-hitting football, highlighting the severe physical toll he carried long after his sports career had ended. Leslie Easterbrook as Sergeant Debbie Callahan. Born on July 29, 1948 in Los Angeles, California, the actress first donned the uniform in the original Police Academy film. At the age of 34, Easterbrook's portrayal of the physically imposing and no-nonsense instructor became an instant standout, blending intimidation with a distinct allure that captivated audiences. Her character's commanding presence and memorable scenes helped launch a massive comedy franchise, and she became one of the few cast members to appear in nearly all of the sequels, cementing her status as a recognizable and iconic figure in 1980s pop culture. Despite Sergeant Callahan's aggressive demeanor and terrifying vocal projection, Leslie Easterbrook is known in reality as a soft-spoken, kind-hearted woman with a professional background in opera singing, a talent she only rarely got to showcase in her comedic work. This stark contrast often made the role a peculiar fit for her gentle personality. Professionally, she faced the double-edged sword of being typecast as a buxom bombshell or a heavy-handed authority figure, which limited her opportunities for dramatic variance during the height of her fame. She also navigated the professional fatigue of the Police Academy franchise itself. As the series progressed, the critical reception plummeted and the budgets tightened, creating a challenging environment where the work was steady but artistically stagnant. Leslie Easterbrook successfully reinvented her career later in life, moving away from comedy to become a celebrated figure in the horror genre, specifically through her chilling collaboration with director Rob Zombie in The Devil's Rejects and the Halloween remake. She has remained active on the convention circuit, embracing her cult following with warmth and gratitude. As of 2026, at the age of 78, she is still active in the entertainment industry, and resides in California with her husband, television writer Dan Wilcox. She continues to appear in independent films and voice work, having successfully transcended the singular image of the whistleblowing sergeant that defined her early career. George Gaynes as Commandant Eric Lassard. Born on May 16, 1917, in Helsinki, Finland, the classically trained opera singer had a long career on stage and television before finding his signature role. At the age of 66, Gaynes began his portrayal of the bumbling, goldfish-loving Commandant Eric Lassard in Police Academy. His performance as the oblivious but benevolent leader was a masterclass in deadpan comedy grounding the slapstick chaos of the cadets with a sweet-natured confusion. The character became a global phenomenon, and Gaynes held the distinction of being one of the few actors to appear in all 7 films of the franchise, cementing his status as a late-blooming comedic icon. The character of Lassard, often portrayed as senile or dim-witted, stood in sharp contrast to the real George Gaynes, who was a sophisticated multilingual intellectual with a commanding baritone voice and an aristocratic background. This juxtaposition was a unique aspect of his career. A man capable of serious operatic performance found his widest audience playing a fool. While he enjoyed professional success late in life, he faced a devastating personal struggle during the height of his fame. In 1989, while Gaynes was filming one of the Police Academy sequels, his son Matthew was killed in a car crash in India, a profound tragedy that Gaynes had to navigate while continuing to perform in light-hearted comedies. George Gaynes enjoyed a robust career outside of the police station, most notably winning hearts as the grumpy but loving foster father Henry Warnemont on the hit sitcom Punky Brewster. He continued acting well into his 80s, with his final film appearance in the 2003 comedy Just Married, before retiring to live a quiet life in Washington state, with his wife of over 60 years, actress Ellen Ann McCleary. George Gaynes passed away at his daughter's home in North Bend, Washington, on February 15, 2016, at the age of 98, from natural causes. He left behind a legacy of versatility, remembered as much for his gentle warmth as for his comedic brilliance. David Graf as Cadet Eugene Tackleberry. Born on April 16, 1950, in Zanesville, Ohio, the talented character actor found his defining role in the chaotic comedy of Police Academy. At the age of 33, Graf introduced the world to Eugene Tackleberry, a gun-obsessed militaristic cadet who solved everyday problems with excessive firepower. His portrayal was a massive success, striking a perfect balance between manic intensity and genuine sweetness that resonated with audiences globally. As one of the few actors to appear in all 7 films of the franchise, as well as the television spin-off, Graf's character became a cultural icon of 1980s cinema. Despite the character's reputation as a trigger-happy weapon enthusiast, David Graf was known by friends and colleagues as a gentle, sensitive man and a talented saxophonist who was nothing like his on-screen persona. This stark contrast showcased his acting ability, but the immense popularity of Tackleberry ultimately created a professional cage. Graf struggled significantly with typecasting, finding it difficult to secure dramatic work or shed the image of the combat-ready cop. While he worked consistently, the industry often hesitated to cast him in serious roles, frequently relegating him to parts that played off his Police Academy recognition. David Graf continued to pursue a diverse career, eventually landing a recurring role on The West Wing and doing extensive voiceover work. But his second act was tragically cut short. On April 7, 2001, while attending his brother-in-law's wedding in Phoenix, Arizona, Graf collapsed from a sudden heart attack. He passed away at the age of 50, just 9 days before his 51st birthday. His death was particularly poignant as it mirrored a genetic family tragedy. His father and grandfather had also died of heart attacks at similarly young ages. He was survived by his wife and 2 sons, leaving behind a legacy defined by the joy he brought to millions. Marion Ramsey as Cadet Laverne Hooks. Born on May 10, 1947, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the talented actress and singer had established herself on Broadway before landing her most famous role. At the age of 36, Ramsey debuted as the soft-spoken Cadet Laverne Hooks in the original Police Academy movie. Her portrayal was an instant comedic success. The character's distinctively meek, high-pitched whisper, punctuated by explosive moments of aggression, became one of the franchise's most enduring gags. Appearing in 6 of the 7 films, Ramsey turned Hooks into a cult icon with her delivery of the line, "Don't move, dirtbag," cementing her place in 1980s pop culture history. In reality, Marion Ramsey was remarkably different from the timid character she played. She possessed a powerful, deep and soulful singing voice, having starred in the hit Broadway show Eubie, and was known for her outgoing and warm personality. The stark contrast between her real voice and the Hooks voice, which she largely based on Michael Jackson, often shocked fans who met her. Despite her vocal range and stage talent, Ramsey faced the professional struggle of being heavily typecast. The specificity of the Hooks character made it difficult for her to secure diverse dramatic roles after the franchise ended, as producers often expected the squeaky-voiced caricature rather than the seasoned performer she was. Marion Ramsey continued to work sporadically in television and film, often lending her voice to animated projects like The Addams Family and Robot Chicken. In her later years, she delighted fans by reuniting with Police Academy co-star Steve Guttenberg for the sci-fi camp horror films Lava Lantula and Tu Lava Tu Lantula. She was also a dedicated advocate for HIV/AIDS awareness and remained close with her former castmates. Ramsey passed away at her home in Los Angeles on January 7, 2021, at the age of 73 after a short illness. Her death was met with a wave of tributes from her comedy peers who remembered her kindness and the immense talent that extended far beyond her most famous whisper. Donovan Scott as Cadet Leslie Barbara. Born on September 29, 1947 in Chico, California, the versatile character actor stepped into the shoes of the timid, victimized photography store owner who joined the police force to learn self-defense. At the age of 36, Scott's portrayal of Cadet Leslie Barbara in Police Academy became a standout performance in one of the decade's highest-grossing comedies. He brought a genuine vulnerability to the slapstick ensemble, serving as the ultimate underdog who finally finds the courage to stand up to the bullies who tormented him, a narrative arc that resonated deeply with audiences despite the film's raunchy tone. While Leslie Barbara was defined by his initial cowardice and hesitation, Donovan Scott was a confident, classically trained actor with a background in improvisation and theater, possessing a boldness that his on-screen counterpart lacked. However, his career faced the inevitable hurdles of Hollywood typecasting, where his physical appearance often relegated him to specific comedic niches rather than leading roles. Following his success in the first film, he faced a significant professional setback when he was cast as a lead in Lucille Ball's comeback sitcom Life with Lucy in 1986. The show was a critical failure and was canceled after only 8 episodes aired, a devastating blow that stalled his momentum and served as a harsh reminder of the industry's volatility. Donovan Scott persevered through these industry fluctuations to build a prolific resume as a character actor and director, appearing in music videos for Olivia Newton-John and films like Psycho 3 and Sheena. Over the years, he found a unique niche, playing Santa Claus, in various television productions, embracing a role that utilized his warmth and presence. He remained active in the industry well into his later years, appearing in the 2022 film Babylon. As of 2026, at the age of 78, he is living quietly in California, continuing to work occasionally while enjoying a legacy as a recognizable face from 80s pop culture. George R. Robertson as Chief Henry J. Hearst. Born on April 20th, 1933, in Brampton, Ontario, the Canadian actor established a steady career before landing the role that would define his legacy in the Police Academy franchise. At the age of 50, Robertson assumed the role of Chief Henry J. Hearst, a character who initially served as the strict, uptight, bureaucratic foil to the misfit cadets, before evolving into a sympathetic and supportive leader across 6 of the 7 films. His authoritative, yet often befuddled presence became a grounding element amidst the slapstick chaos, contributing to the massive commercial success of a series that became a comedic cultural phenomenon of the 1980s. In reality, the stern and rule-abiding demeanor of Chief Hearst stood in sharp contrast to George R. Robertson's actual personality. He was widely celebrated as a gentle, warm-hearted, and deeply compassionate man. While he played the rigid authority figure to perfection, his personal life was defined by humanitarianism rather than bureaucracy. Professionally, he faced the common hurdles of a working character actor in Canada, where maintaining visibility outside of a blockbuster franchise proved difficult. He navigated the risks of typecasting that came with such a recognizable role, working tirelessly to secure dramatic parts in film and television to demonstrate a range that extended far beyond the comedic police commissioner. George R. Robertson remained active in the entertainment industry well into his 80s, balancing his acting career with significant philanthropic work, most notably as a dedicated ambassador for UNICEF, where he received the Danny Kaye UNICEF Canada Award. He continued to appear in productions such as The Pentagon Papers and Still Mine, with his final acting credit occurring in 2017. George R. Robertson passed away at Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre in Toronto on January 29, 2023, at the age of 89 from natural causes. He was survived by his wife of 61 years, Adele, and his passing prompted an outpouring of tributes from former cast members who remembered him as the kindest of patriarchs both on and off the screen. Debralee Scott as Mrs. Fackler. Born on April 2, 1953 in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the actress was already a recognizable television presence before stepping onto the big screen. At the age of 30, Debralee Scott's portrayal of Mrs. Fackler in Police Academy delivered a memorable comedic punch initially, as the frantic wife attempting to stop her husband from joining the force by jumping on the hood of his car. Her distinctive look, quirky energy, and unique voice helped her stand out in the large ensemble cast, and she reprised the role in the 3rd installment, where her character hilariously joined the Academy herself, cementing her status as a cult figure in 1980s comedy. Despite her knack for playing the ditzy blonde or the eccentric younger sister archetypes she popularized in hits like Mary Hartman, and Welcome Back, Kotter, Scott was known in reality as a sharp and intelligent woman. However, she struggled significantly with being typecast, which often confined her to roles that utilized her comedic persona rather than her dramatic range. As the sitcom landscape changed in the late 1980s and early 1990s, she found it increasingly difficult to secure steady work, eventually leading her to step away from the acting profession as roles became scarce. Debralee Scott largely retired from the entertainment industry in the late 1990s and became a talent agent in New York before moving to Florida to care for her ailing sister. Her later years were marked by profound personal tragedy. Her fiancé, Port Authority police officer John Dennis Levi, was killed in the line of duty during the September 11, 2001, attacks on the World Trade Center. Friends and family reported that she never fully recovered from the grief of this loss, which contributed to a rapid decline in her health. Debralee Scott passed away at her home in Amelia Island, Florida, on April 5, 2005, at the age of 52, after falling into a coma caused by cirrhosis. Ted Ross as Captain Reed. Born on June 24, 1934 in Zanesville, Ohio, the commanding baritone first made waves on Broadway before stepping into the chaotic precinct of Police Academy. At the age of 49, Ross took on the role of Captain Reed, the often exasperated superior officer trying to maintain order among a motley crew of misfit recruits. His portrayal contributed significantly to the chemistry of the ensemble cast, and his unexpected musical moments in the franchise became fan favorites. The movie was a surprise blockbuster, spawning a decade-long franchise and making Ross a recognizable face in 1980s pop culture. Despite the comedic buffoonery associated with Captain Reed, Ted Ross was a deeply serious and accomplished stage actor with a pedigree that far outshone the low-brow humor of the films. He was a Tony Award winner for his portrayal of the Cowardly Lion in The Wiz, a role that showcased his immense vocal talent and theatrical gravity qualities that were starkly different from the befuddled police captain he played on screen. Ross faced the professional struggle of being underutilized in Hollywood. Despite his proven range and award-winning background, he found himself frequently typecast in supporting roles that rarely allowed him to display the full extent of his dramatic and musical abilities. Ted Ross continued to act sporadically throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, with his final film appearance in 1991's The Fisher King. However, his career was cut short by significant health battles. He suffered a stroke in 1998, which forced him into retirement and led him to move into a nursing home in Dayton, Ohio. Ted Ross passed away on September 3, 2002, at the age of 68, from complications related to the stroke he had suffered 4 years earlier. He was honored locally in his home state, leaving behind a legacy that bridged the gap between prestigious Broadway theater and beloved slapstick comedy. Georgina Spelvin as Hooker. Born on March 1, 1936 in Houston, Texas, the actress-born Michelle Graham was already a notorious figure in the adult film industry before making her mainstream crossover. At the age of 48, Spelvin's portrayal of the unnamed sex worker hidden within a podium became one of the most memorable visual gags in comedy history. Her scene in Police Academy, where she silently torments Commandant Lassard during a public speech, became a cultural touchstone of 80s humor. Despite having no lines in the first film, her comedic timing and the meta-humor of casting an adult film legend in the role delighted audiences and cemented the scene as a franchise highlight, which she reprised in the third installment. While her character was a mute plot device used for shock value, the real Georgina Spelvin was a stark contrast, a highly articulate, intelligent, and classically trained performer who had started her career in Broadway choruses. The Hooker character played into the public's perception of her devil in Miss Jones persona, but in reality, she was a private intellectual, a gourmet cook, and a writer. Her professional journey was defined by the immense struggle of the porn stigma. Despite her clear acting ability and mainstream cameos, she was perpetually typecast and barred from serious consideration in Hollywood. She faced the unique hardship of navigating the legal and social turbulence of the 1970s and 80s obscenity wars, often finding herself legally persecuted for her earlier work, while simultaneously trying to forge a legitimate path in comedy. Georgina Spelvin eventually retired from all forms of adult performance and largely withdrew from the public eye to focus on a quiet life, occasionally resurfacing for fan conventions or documentary interviews. She penned a memoir in 2008 titled The Devil Made Me Do It, reclaiming her narrative and showcasing the wit that her silent cameos often hid. As of 2026, at the age of 89, she is living in retirement in Southern California. She remains a cult figure who successfully survived the controversies of her era, living out her later years with a privacy that belies her once scandalous public image. Watching the years unfold for the stars of Police Academy is a bittersweet reminder of how quickly life moves. From the eccentric Mahoney to the soft-spoken Hooks, these characters became our friends. Seeing them now allows us to celebrate their lives beyond the blue uniform. Do you still find yourself quoting these legends today? Tell us your favorite line in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to stay connected with the stars you love.